Today we're having a look at the Zeblaze Vibe 3 GPS. That's right, this one has a built-in GPS for activity tracking, but it's also got some serious issues. But first, let's have a look at what we get. It comes in a nice looking box with some details and specifications on the back. Inside we first have the charger, and this is a magnetic type that attaches to the back of the watch. The other end is a standard USB. Here's the watch itself, and we get a user manual. In here you will find a QR code for downloading the app if you don't want to search in the store yourself. There are plastic films protecting both the screen on the front and the sensors on the back, and they should both be removed before using the watch. It's not difficult to see where they got the inspiration for the design from, as it looks pretty much exactly like a Garmin Fenix 5. The bands have a lot of holes for adjusting the size, and they are quite soft and comfy to wear. I had mine on both day and night for about 2 weeks while making this review, and I didn't find it uncomfortable at all. There's also quick release pins on the back of them, so they are very easy to take off if you have other bands you want to use. On the back of the watch we find the heart rate sensor in the middle, and below is the connector for the magnetic charger. The battery is said to last about 7 days, with all the normal functions switched on. With the GPS always on, it should last about 4 hours. With my activity it lasts about 5 days, which isn't too bad considering I did use it 24 hours a day, always connected by Bluetooth, and using the GPS for about 1 hour and 45 minutes. The 2 buttons on the sides are clicky, so we do get a feedback when pressing them. There's nothing on the left side. As you can see here, the screen doesn't go all the way to the edge, so there is a thin black border around it, but it's so small it doesn't bother me at all. Setting up the watch is very easy. Just scan the QR code or go to the store and find the app. It's called Fondue Pro. It's not the best rated app out there, but it's actually not that bad. When it's installed, go to the More section and tap Device on the top, and select Vibe 3 GPS. That's all. Now the time is synced and we can start using the watch. Like I mentioned earlier, I had this watch on my wrist 24 hours a day for 2 weeks, and I still find it comfortable to wear. It's not a small watch at 50.5mm wide and 15.9mm thick, but I like bigger watches as long as the design matches the size. The watch is nice and it doesn't look cheap at all, but it's got some issues that I will explain a bit later. The touchscreen is 1.3 inches, 240 by 240 pixels, and it's an IPS color screen. The colors look good and text is easy to read. The display will automatically turn on when you raise the wrist, so there's no need to push any buttons to check the time. The top button is used to turn on the screen, and pushing it again will open the main menu. The menu is also available by swiping up on the touchscreen. The bottom button works as a shortcut to starting activities. There are 3 watch faces to choose from, and holding on the screen allows us to change between them. This has an analog style, but also shows steps, calories, heart rate, date and day. The little yellow icon under the date shows us if we are connected to the phone. This blue one is my favorite, and here's one with some green lines. They mostly show the same information, but look different. Swiping from the left we have some shortcuts. We can change the screen's brightness by tapping on the round icon. The gear icon is settings. Sedentary just shows us if this function is on or not. It can only be switched on or off from the app on the phone. About shows us some information on the watch. And screen brightness is the same as we saw before, just with a different style. And some buttons to power off, restart, or reset the watch. Swiping from the right opens the notification area. Here's a list of text messages, Facebook Messenger, phone calls, and so on. The text is very easy to read, but sadly it will not show us the whole message. So if you get any messages that are longer than what you can see on the screen right now, you have to open the phone to read them. I sometimes use the Viber Messenger app, but notifications from Viber don't show up on the watch, even when the Viber notification is switched on in the Fondue app. Since there's no speaker on the watch, it will only vibrate to notify you if something is happening on the phone. We also get phone call notifications, but there's no option to mute the call. You can only reject it. Swiping down on the main screen brings us to today's activity results. So here we find steps, distance and calories. It also shows us the last heart rate reading with a visual display in colors on top. Below are today's highest and lowest values. Next is sleep tracking for last night, with total sleep, deep sleep, and light sleep. By the way, I didn't sleep 7 hours and 55 minutes last night, so this is one of the problems I'm having with this watch. I'll explain a bit more when we get to the app. And last is saved sports activities. I didn't do any today, so it's empty. Swiping up, we have some more options. This shows us today's steps, but here we can tap it and see details for the whole week, day by day. The yellow running man is to start a new activity, and we can choose between walking out, running out, indoor running, outdoor cycling, climbing, pedestrianism, free training, and motion record will show activities that we already completed, but more about that in a bit. Before starting an activity, we get the option to set goals by tapping the gear icon at the bottom. If you want to run a specific distance, set a duration, or burn a set amount of calories, it can be set here. Or we can start without any goals. When starting the activity, it will first try to get a GPS signal before starting the countdown. Getting the GPS signal has taken everything from 10 seconds to 1 minute, but usually it's pretty quick. While the activity is active, we have access to some information, like time spent, distance, speed, steps, heart rate, calories, stride, and the visual heart rate display. Stopping the activity, we get the same information, but here's also a little map at the end, made from the GPS data. The GPS is quite accurate and stable, so it creates a good map without losing the signal during the activity. If you later want to check your activities, they are available on the watch, but it's better to sync it with the phone and delete them on the watch, because every time you open the activities list on the phone, it will take some time syncing all the activities again. This is much faster if you delete them from the watch after syncing. The activities list is also available here for some reason, so let's move on. There's a sleep tracking screen again, but here we also have a view of the full week. There should be graphs here showing every day, but this is one of the problems I'm having. Sleep tracking stops working after some days, even if I start or reset the watch. It will work for a few days and then stop again. The heart rate options let us manually start it and see continuous reading. We can measure the blood pressure, which takes about 22 seconds, so I'll cut to the result. Here's blood oxygen, which takes about 20 seconds, so cutting to the result. The alarm clock must be set on the app on the phone, but at least we can see it in here. It's a vibration alarm only, so no sound, and we can't enable or disable it on the watch. The watch can also be used as a remote for the music player on the phone, and it's responsive and easy to use, but sadly we cannot see the name of the track or adjust the volume. We can only play, pause, skip back and forward. The phone's camera can also be remotely controlled from the watch to take pictures. Misplaced your phone lately? Just tap the blue icon and it will play the ringtone on the phone, if it's connected to the watch. Here's the same settings as we saw before, so let's move on to the last two functions. First the stopwatch that supports laps by tapping the blue button. And at last we have the countdown timer. The strange thing here is that there's no vibration when it reaches 0. There's only a message on the screen, nothing more. So you have to look at the screen to see if it's at 0. Let's move over to the app. This button is to sync data with the phone. We have 2 arrows to switch between the days, our steps so far today with goals in % below it and a graph around it. The goal can be set by clicking on the flag up here. There's also calories, active time and distance. On top is sports, sleep, heart rate and so on, and we can swipe to change between them. As you see here, the sleep data is empty, even though I did wear the watch at night every day. We have some heart rate data, and tapping on it will show us a graph of the day. There's only one important thing missing here, and that's the time under the graph, so I have no idea when anything on the graph actually happened. It also shows a minimum, average and max in different colored graphs. The blood pressure report also shows us a graph, but remember that you have to start measuring manually or this graph will be empty. And the same goes for the SpO2 data. There is of course also detailed steps data available in the app, so you can see the progress through the day with timestamps on the left side. In sports we first have our record on the main page, and the clock icon on the side here is to open our saved sports activities. But before we have a look at activities, let's go through the other app functions. The first tab at the bottom is like a personal area, showing some information about today compared with yesterday. Below is an area showing our best results, the average result, and last week's total. The second tab is an overview of the week, showing a graph of each day and the average and total steps on top. Swiping shows the same information, but with sleep data. Here's again my problem with sleep monitoring. As you can see at the bottom, it didn't record anything the last few days. I have tried resetting and restarting the watch, which fixed it for a few days, before it again stopped recording sleep data. The third tab is a type of report, showing as much information as possible on one page. Steps, sleep, heart rate graph, blood oxygen graph, blood pressure graph. The More tab is where we find all the settings that we can customize. For notifications, we can choose which apps we want notifications from, and it's mostly working fine. But I often use an app called Viber for chatting, and even though it's selected, it doesn't work. Most of the other apps I use work fine. We can adjust how often the heart rate testing should be done, or switch it off. Remote shutter makes it possible to use the watch as a remote to take pictures. When it's on, it can take pictures by clicking the button or tapping on the screen. We also have sedentary reminders and drinking water reminders. The alarm must be set through the app, and we can only enable or disable it here. It cannot be done on the watch. The raise hand option doesn't have an option to set a time frame, which means the watch will switch on even in the middle of the night if you move the wrist. So I have to switch this off every night before I go to sleep, which is a bit annoying. There's also a firmware upgrade option, but there hasn't been any updates since I got the watch. Like I mentioned before, I have had a few issues with this watch, like the sleep monitoring that stops working after some days. When it works, it's actually quite accurate, but it doesn't always work. Let's move over to the activities and have a look at another issue I'm having. In this 5.13 km long activity, we get a nice presentation of the data, with a map below it. The watch shows 5.1 km, which is the same as the data on the phone, but there's a problem here. I know that this route is not even close to 5 km, and since this is a Google map, there's an option to mark each kilometer. Here's only 3 dots, and the last one is at 3 km. I also checked on my laptop, and this route is 3.2 km. That's an error of 60%, and that's while using the GPS. The GPS is actually very accurate, and it shows the route on Google Map perfectly. So it's not a problem with the GPS itself. Since the map is perfectly correct, I think this must be a problem with the software in the watch. And hopefully it's fixable by a firmware. And yes, this happens every time I start an activity, and they all show a much higher distance. In the activity data we can see the speed, pace, calories, VO2 max, pace, heart rate info, effective time, and so on. Pace is also available in a graph with some more details below. This blue chart shows us elevation changes from -23 to 20 meters in this activity, which is a bit strange. I started around sea level, so this should never be below 0 meters. In one other activity, it jumped up and down between 0 and 20 meters on a flat road. The red graph shows the heart rate. There's another test I did just to check the distance. I know this path is less than 1 kilometer, but the watch shows 1.9 kilometers, which is double of what it should be. The GPS data on the map is 100% correct though, so this distance is not coming from the GPS. But that's not all, there's another issue. So let's have a look at the steps data day by day. Usually the data is good and correct here, but if you look at some days at midnight, there's a spike in steps. There's almost 8,000 steps at midnight, and I was sitting watching Netflix at this time. Jumping to the day before, there's no steps registered after 2 o'clock, even though I was quite active this day. I'm not sure why this happened, but I can even see it on my watch at midnight. Because at midnight, it should of course save the data and start a new day from 0 steps. But that doesn't happen, it just continues counting through the next day, and when it finally saves, all the extra data is saved at midnight. It doesn't happen every day, but it's too often. I do like the design of this watch. It's got snappy menus and it's comfortable to wear. But all the problems make it difficult to like it. If you have this watch, let me know if you're experiencing any issues with it. It could be that my watch has some defects, but others work fine. So let me know in the comments below. And that's it for my review. If you liked the video, click that like button, and if you didn't already subscribe, just click that button below the video and the bell for more. Have a nice day and see you in the next video. Bye bye.